On December 14, 2017, a cataclysmic shift in the Force shook the entertainment industry to its very core. The almighty 800-pound gorilla of the entertainment industry, Disney, acquired no less than 21st Century Fox itself for the low price of $52.4 billion, which later turned into $71.3 billion, thanks to a rival bid from America's favorite cable company, Comcast. While everybody was excited about what the deal would mean for Marvel and Star Wars, the one aspect that nobody is talking about is animation, more specifically Blue Sky Studios. In this video, I'll discuss the future of Blue Sky and Fox Animation as a whole to determine whether or not they'll have a future within the Disney empire. I'm going to channel my inner Vanellope and break it down for you lickety-split. In 1997, Fox acquired Blue Sky Studios, but not for its services as an animation studio. Fox had acquired the Los Angeles-based visual effects company VFX for the purposes of creating their own visual effects empire similar to that of Industrial Light and Magic. Fox's goal was to create a visual effects and animation powerhouse. In fact, the combined name of the company was Blue Sky VFX. After the acquisition, Blue Sky produced the visual effects and character animation for numerous films including Alien Resurrection, A Simple Wish, Mouse Hunt, Star Trek Insurrection, and Fight Club. Things were going great for a while until they weren't. In 1999, the unthinkable happened. The visual effects market crashed. Fox panicked and abandoned the sinking ship by selling VFX to Rhythm and Hughes Studios and considered selling Blue Sky next. Around the same time, they were given the opportunity to do something they had been building towards for years, an animated feature film. The film in question was originally going to be a musical drama directed by the legendary Don Bluth. Fox would later cancel it, deciding instead to hand the project over to Blue Sky, demanding that the film be retooled into a comedy. Blue Sky accepted the challenge in a last-ditch attempt to convince Fox to not sell them, and thus work began on the film that would eventually become Ice Age. Ice Age released on March 24, 2002, and became an instant smash, grossing $46.3 million in its opening weekend, far surpassing Fox's expectations. When all was said and done, it grossed over $383 million worldwide. The success of Ice Age not only solidified Blue Sky as the third studio after Pixar and DreamWorks Animation to launch a successful CGI franchise, but gave Fox a seat at the table in the incredibly lucrative family entertainment space. 16 years and 11 feature films later have transformed Blue Sky into one of the most successful animation studios in the world, but its future under the Disney organization is uncertain, as many people believe that Disney doesn't need a third animation studio due to the success of the already existing Pixar and Disney Animation, which is a valid point, but for the purposes of this video, let's assume that Disney does decide to keep Blue Sky. In that case, who the hell is going to run it? On October 30th, 2017, Andrea Maloro and Robert Baird were named co-presidents of Fox Animation, which effectively put them in charge of Blue Sky. This presents a conundrum as Disney already has plenty of talented executives in animation. The leadership of Disney's feature animation division was in flux after John Lasseter went on a forced 6-month sabbatical due to sexual harassment allegations. That sabbatical is now up, and Lasseter will be leaving the company at the end of the year. In the wake of his departure, the creative leadership of Pixar and Disney Animation have been separated. Pete Docter became Chief Creative Officer of Pixar, and Jennifer Lee became the Chief Creative Officer of Disney Animation. Because of this change, the creative leadership of Blue Sky, should Disney decide to keep it, would also be separated. Chris Wedge would most likely be named Chief Creative Officer because he's the most prominent creative force at the studio, and the only person I could think of that could take on such a job. Maloro and Baird would most likely report to Ed Catmull, as he is mostly responsible for the business side of things. While the creative leadership issue has been solved, there is one other hurdle, and that's the fact that Blue Sky isn't even based in California. It's based in Greenwich, Connecticut. I know it seems weird that one of the most successful animation studios in the world is based on the East Coast, but it's true. As you probably guessed, the rest of Disney's feature animation division is based in California, which would make managing Blue Sky difficult, because every animation studio they own, both in features and TV, are based in California. And while it may be tempting for Disney to impose their will and force Blue Sky to move to California, if they did that, there would be a mass exodus of talent, many of whom would be unwilling to uproot their families to California, and without talent, a studio is nothing. Plus, Blue Sky renewed their lease, ensuring they'll stay in Connecticut until at least 2025, so Disney would have to honor that deal no matter what. In any case, it's very likely that Maloro and Baird will oversee the day-to-day business operations at Blue Sky, similar to Jim Morris at Pixar and Andrew Milstein at Disney Animation. Whether or not they'll be given a chance to prove themselves is currently unclear, as the culture of Blue Sky is very different from Disney and Pixar. Not to mention the success of their films, not called Ice Age and Rio, are a mixed bag. Everything will hinge on Disney keeping the studio around, which at this point could go either way. We'll just have to wait and see. Blue Sky has theatrical releases slated for release until 2021. Spies in Disguise on September 13, 2019, Nimona on February 14, 2020, and Foster on March 5, 2021. Disney has stated that they plan to release every Fox movie that's completed or in production by the time the merger closes, so it's highly likely that Spies in Disguise and Nimona will be released. But I'm not sure about Foster, at least not yet. It does have a few things going for it. It's an original musical, and if you know anything about Disney, you know they really love their musicals. The film is being directed by Steve Martino, who previously directed the Peanuts movie, which is fantastic, by the way, and longtime Blue Sky story artist Karen Disher, who is the first woman to direct a film at Blue Sky. Songwriters Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, who wrote songs for The Greatest Showman and are currently writing songs for the Disney live-action remake of Aladdin, are on board to write songs for Foster. On paper, all the ingredients are in place for a great movie. The only obstacle standing in its way is Disney. As I mentioned before, Disney will release all Fox movies that are either completed or in production. However, Disney has free reign to do whatever it wants to Fox movies still in development. Animated movies typically enter full production a year before its intended release. By the time the merger closes in the first half of 2019, Foster will still be in pre-production, and as such, will be at the whim of the House of Mouse. They could leave the film as is, retool it, or slam the brakes and put a stop to development altogether. At this point, it's unclear what Disney plans to do with Fox's animation unit, as the deal is not done yet and won't be for another few months. One thing is certain though, Disney will look at all the projects Blue Sky and Fox Animation has in development, including Foster, with a fine-tooth comb, and will decide which ones will get made and which ones to send to the chopping block. Beyond Foster, assuming it actually comes out, Blue Sky has a number of projects in development, such as Mutts, Frog Kisser, and Escape from Hat. In regards to Blue Sky's most popular franchise, Ice Age, don't expect another theatrical installment for a long time. The most recent installment of the franchise, Collision Course, was a colossal disappointment of the highest order, and by colossal disappointment, I mean it flopped domestically by only grossing $64 million, making it by far the lowest grossing film in the franchise. The only thing that saved it from being a complete flop was its strong international numbers, where it grossed $344 million. Even that was a disappointment compared to the strong numbers the franchise grossed overseas from the previous 3 films. And did I mention that the film was savaged by critics with a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes? To be fair, the Ice Age films after the first ones were not critical darlings, but Collision Course marked an all-time low in terms of critical reception. When you combine the disappointing box office receipts of Collision Course, the creative stagnation, the scathing reviews, and the franchise's waning relevance in general, you've got the perfect storm for disaster, and as such, Disney probably won't be that keen to produce another theatrical installment. However, that doesn't mean the franchise is dead. Far from it, in fact. Recently, it was revealed that Fox has an Ice Age animated series in development. Should Disney decide to move forward with the project, it would be a good fit for their upcoming streaming service, which will be aimed towards families and feature content from Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars. Content from Fox's family-oriented properties will likely appear on the streaming service at some point down the line, and since Ice Age is Fox's most important family-oriented brand, having an Ice Age animated series series made exclusively for the Disney streaming service makes a lot of sense. Another good home for it would be the Disney Channel. For those of you who don't know, animation recently returned to the network after being exiled to Disney XD in 2014, which is totally not on the verge of collapse. Kids love zany and fast-paced animated comedies. If you want proof of that, just look at how well Teen Titans Go has done for Cartoon Network. Disney having their own equivalent of that with Ice Age would probably be a huge hit, or maybe I'm overestimating the value of this franchise, you be the judge. Rio 3 could happen, as the first two films made a lot of money, but I don't think anyone is actually demanding a third Rio film. Hell, I'm not even sure if people actually remembered the first two films. Then again, it's a safer bet than Ice Age. There are also a ton of questions surrounding Blue Sky, such as whether or not they'll continue producing sequels and adaptations, or shift their focus to original stories, whether or not Disney will institute a Pixar-style brain trust, and where Blue Sky films will be placed on Disney's crowded release schedule. Considering Disney owns two of the most popular family film brands in the world, Blue Sky will have an uphill battle justifying their existence to their new corporate overlords in Burbank, and measuring up to the already tall stand-in giants. But hey, Disney already has a successful subsidiary based in Connecticut. Why can't they have another? On September 20th, 2017, Fox inked a deal with British animation studio Locksmith Animation with the goal of releasing a new animated feature every 12 to 18 months. Locksmith previously had a deal at Paramount under the regime of Brad Grey. That deal never went anywhere because Grey was ousted in early 2017 due to a long string of box office flops and was replaced by former Fox chairman and CEO Jim Giannopoulos, who felt that Locksmith's projects were not a good fit for his strategic vision for Paramount. Fox, who was eager to bolster its animation slate due to the departure of DreamWorks Animation, which was acquired by Comcast in 2016, pounced on the opportunity. The deal was for 3 films, the first of which, titled Ron's Gone Ron, releases on November 6, 2020. They also have a second film in development, Wed Wabbit, which is based on a children's book and will be a live-action animated hybrid. For the last decade, all of Disney's animated features have been produced in-house at both Pixar and Disney Animation. In fact, they haven't worked with an outside animation studio since the release of 2006's The Wild, so it's hard to tell how Disney will treat Locksmith, who are the new kids on the block and don't have an established identity yet. On top of all that, Locksmith will have to compete with Disney's other animated features for attention. In 2020 alone, there's Nimona from Blue Sky, 2 untitled Pixar films, a feature film adaptation of the popular animated series Bob's Burgers, and an untitled film from Disney Animation, which just so happens to release a mere 2 weeks after Ron's Gone Ron. And when you look at Disney's incredibly crowded release schedule, that's going to be a big problem. In addition to Locksmith, there are other Fox Animation projects in development, such as Tonko House's The Dam Keeper, and a bunch of other films that have been optioned and acquired over the years, and will most likely be cancelled when the ink dries on the merger agreement. There are also films based on popular Fox animated series such as The Simpsons, Family Guy, and Bob's Burgers in development. A Bob's Burgers movie will be released on July 17, 2020, while a sequel to 2007's The Simpsons movie and a live-action animated Family Guy hybrid will hopefully follow at some point down the line. Also included in the deal are the assets of the long-dead Fox Animation Studios, which made films such as Anastasia and Titan A.E., which were both directed by the legendary Don Bluth, which Eric will be really happy about. Finally, at last, Anastasia will be a Disney princess. Isn't that wonderful? There's no telling what Disney will do with Fox Animation. It's never had a deep pedigree or a great track record for that matter. You could even make the argument that it's redundant at a place that owns Pixar and Disney Animation. But I believe there is some value in these assets, if for nothing else than to fulfill Disney's goal of becoming Skynet. In all seriousness, I hope Disney can find a way to revitalize Fox's animated properties and make them important again, because it's not only good for them, but for animation as a whole. At this point, all we can hope for is that Scrat, Peter Griffin, and Homer Simpson can successfully make the journey from Century City to Burbank in one piece.